Okay, there we go. And we're back. All right. I don't know why that was being stupid. Because I set it to the correct orientation, but it didn't want to let me do it. So I I don't know what that's about, but all right. Let's see. Does everyone hear me good? Things are functional. I think we're good. Let's just adjust this a tad. All right. There we go. Okay, much better. So while we're waiting, I'm just gonna do a little dabaroonie here because it's Friday, and then we'll get after it. So what I got loaded up in here right now is grape ape, which I'm sure a lot of you remember. Not a flavor that's been been around for a while. Crazy good. My homie Omakase Farms out in Colorado found some seeds in his collection labeled grape ape, and so probably an S1 or some sort of hybrid, but this one tastes exactly like, honestly, it tastes better than I remember. It's crazy good. It's just so good. Like, I was kind of lamenting about, different flavors of the past not tasting the same way that they used to. Some of these OGs, like, kind of, grow different, taste different, and, you wonder, is it our memories that are wrong? It's been so long, our perspectives have changed so much over the years. Like, what is really, just our exposure to different flavors has changed. So what's better? What's worse? Was it really as good as we remember, or are we just, rose-colored glasses kind of vibe? I don't know. Maybe a little both. But let's get into it. So, cloning, right? Let's take some clones. First thing, I don't always use fresh scissors for every cloning session, but I do go through these a lot. As far as I'm concerned, these are consumable. So, I mean, you see I buy the no brand ones. They don't, whatever. They all come from the same factory in China. It's not like the Vivo Sun or the other ones are special. They're not. So wherever you can get the most reasonably priced ones that are stainless steel, which, I don't know if you can see, but it says that on the thing. Is it really stainless steel? Another good question. Anyone can put anything on a piece of metal, and fingers crossed it actually is what we say it is. So with these, the reason we use two pairs of scissors is that we're going to be leaving them in this right here, which is 5,000 ppm of chlorine. So if you watch the last cloning, or the TC video, or the cleaning your clones video, we use the 5,000 ppm chlorine for pretty much everything. So we clean our tools with it, we clean the plants with it, we clean the surfaces with it, domes, trays, table, you name it. This one is actually a chlorine dioxide that we're using. So the nice part about the chlorine dioxide versus, so like a pure ProCure or a Garden Clean or one of the other ones, it's less corrosive than bleach. Because if you have tools sitting in bleach all day, they're going to get wrecked. Like, they just get pitted and they get destroyed, so rusted out. So you have to constantly be wiping them and cleaning them. And, you know, like I said, these are consumable products. They're like a couple bucks a piece. Just, it is what it is. You know, you're going to go through scissors like crazy. So we're going to clean our work surface. We've got our tools soaking in the same solution. Right, and away we go. So, boom, got our 1020 flat here. And then my favorite thing recently has been these Jiffy flats that come ready to go. They come wrapped, they come pre-moistened, no fuss, no muss. Straight into the thing, and we can rip 50 clones relatively quickly. So I used to use rock wool, which I've had a lot of success in the past, and I've also kind of been burned a little bit by rock wool. I'm not sure what happened recently, if it was a manufacturing issue or what the fuck the deal was, but rock wool was not rocking for me for a while. So, you know, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. And plenty of ways to make clones. You know, aeroponics, aquaponics, just a cup of water, rock wool, peat, cocoa, you know, you fucking name it. This is what works for me because, well, one, it's there. Pull it out, set it down, done. So we're gonna get after it. So these are soaking. We want these to soak for at least 60 seconds, if not like a minute or so, or a minute, you know, a couple minutes per. So we just alternate the scissors, and that way, anytime we pull out tools, they're clean, and then the other set of tools is getting cleaned while we're using this one, and then we just go back and forth. And we want to alternate these between every single plant. You could, if you're doing a flat, we're going to do 10 different varieties. We're going to do 5 of each. But if you were just doing a single tray, I would still recommend, you know, refreshing them periodically throughout the process. So, God forbid, one of your branches is infected, you're not going to now spread an infection throughout the entire tray. You know, it would be somewhat isolated. But yeah, so let's grab some cuts out the fridge and let's get to work. So in the cleaning your clones video, I kind of showed you how I like to take my clones, dunk them in bleach, and then put them in a cup of water to harden up before I plug them. So that's exactly what I did. You can fit 18 red cups on a 1020 flat like this. So you've got 3 by 6, and then, you know, 1 strain per cup. Bunch of trays in a fridge, or at the very least, just somewhere in your grow room so they can kind of acclimate to the humidity a little bit better, and away you go. So, boom. Just get a little paper towel, and we'll grab this guy. Oh, almost forgot. Okay, so one other way we're going to avoid contamination is that we're going to use this little sorry, I got to get this stuff out of the fridge. This little kind of clone prep stuff. So this is Dip and Grow, or not Dip and Grow, excuse me. This is Clonex, but the same principle applies to Dip and Grow, or really any gel that you want to use. I get these little squeezy containers at the grocery store. They're super cheap, and just leave this guy in the fridge. So what we're going to do is just do a little dollop on top of each one of these. And this is going to help us to avoid having like a shot glass full of some really dirty, gross Clonex that, you know, again, if you've got a pathogen or some viroid or something that's in one plant, you know, you really don't want to have this giant shared bath that all of the plants are going to be sitting in and, you know, potentially contaminating one another. You know, that's an issue. And then also you avoid waste, because at the very end, you know, you might have half a cup of Clonex or Dip and Grow that's still just kind of sitting there. With Dip and Grow, I like to do this process afterwards. So we'll take like a little squeezy, like a little 3 mil dropper, and we'll just squeeze a little couple drops of Dip and Grow onto the stem. Kind of more of a pain than this method is. This is just a little simpler. You know, you don't want to use too much because it's just wasteful. Like the plants don't need that much. But this is an easy one. So let's see, Fletcher, you're an arrow. Get the humidity dome on them. Yeah, so I mean, really, you're just going to slow down your the rate of change of the humidity. So air the dome out slowly. So if you've got vents, crack the vents, move them slowly, periodically. Then the last thing I do is I'll usually put like I mean, you can even do like, you know, a plant tag and have it like sit up so you can jack up the humidity dome. So it allows for even more airflow. And then as soon as the humidity dome equalizes with the external environment, like there's no condensation on the humidity dome, that's an easy way to get after that. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, putting them in water, this is like, these root really well, always. Like, they're hardened, you know, like, I mean, these are really firm, so at no point are you going to be sticking, you know, like if you've got in rock wool and you don't exactly hit the hole or whatever, they start to get bendy and floppy and weird. We want to avoid that, so in this case, we will. So what we're going to do, we got 5, so that's easy. So we take our plant tag, and then we'll just get to work. So a lot of people are going to use a razor blade for this process, which you definitely can. I just like to use not brand new, but sharp scissors. If your scissors aren't super sharp, definitely get a razor blade, because smashing the bottom of the plant and just creating a ton of fibers and, you know, a bunch of plant matter that's not really going to heal or potentially just die and rot is not something that you're going to want. So, and then the other thing is, if you can, it's better to go at a node for height-wise and rooting-wise. You know, it's not required, like the plant will root here or here, but if you can be on or near a node, that's your best bet. So we're just going to go, boom, 45 degrees. We want full pith in there. Hollow stems don't root nearly as well, and oftentimes they don't root at all. So if you've got full pith, that is a good sign. Actually, we're going to go, since we're doing a full 50, we're going to go a little bit smaller on these clones. I don't like this kind of haircut tech for a couple reasons. I mean, the biggest one is that you're going to ultimately expose your plant to a ton of, it's just a lot of surface area that you've now cut. And you start to wonder, you know, that's immediately a pathway for a pest, viroid, infection of some kind. You know, it's not something we want to invite. So I don't see, I cut right below the node or right on the node. Again, it's not like an absolute requirement. Like this one, the height is going to be quite different. So in this case, I'm not going to cut on the node. Because I do have a bit of an OCD thing with making sure all of these are pretty much exactly the same size. If you're trying to be really specific, it's not a bad idea to have like some sort of, you can just draw a line or, you know, a piece of tape or something that gives you your 5-inch, 6-inch clone. But once you do this a million times, you'll know pretty much exactly what the size needs to be. So cool. So that's the first one done. And then we just want to be like really cognizant of cleaning our surface a ton. Just ABC, you know, always be cloning, always be cleaning. Let it kind of soak for a minute while you grab your next flavor, and then we'll get after it. You'll want to make sure either you wait a minute or you're alternating scissors. So sometimes I do back to front or side to side, or you can even put them in a separate container, like 2 glasses, and then that way, or 2 different colors, like whatever, you know, whatever works, to make sure that they are getting sterilized in between your runs. So let's grab the best ones out of these, and then let's wipe off the scissors. You don't necessarily need to wipe off the scissors because it is just a little bit of chlorine, but you know, better practice to get rid of the chlorine. It definitely doesn't help the plant, because when we do a chlorine dunk with the full plant, we wash the chlorine off, right? We're not leaving some chlorine on the plant, because that will cause oxidation and cell death, which, you know, not something that we want. And then I'm just kind of orienting them all roughly the same way. I'll get like a better video, but a lot of people leave nodes kind of like exposed all the way down, so you have a ton of growth inside your little micro canopy, and that just makes airflow more difficult, more susceptible to mold and stuff like that in there. So if it can be avoided, I like to try to go up to, I mean, even like on this one, you know, just the very top, because these, when you plug these as plants, those are the first nodes that are going to come off the plant as soon as you start, you know, kind of cleaning it up. Like we're never going to keep them, so why are we like fighting to keep them early on, you know, in the process? Like there's just no reason for that. So boom, and then we know, okay, we've got old in the back, fresh and clean in the front. And then, okay, cool. So we have some extras, right? So you got a couple things you could do with these. One, you just put them back in the fridge, right? Just like they are now. They're in a cup. They go back in the fridge. No harm, no foul. Another option is Ziploc bag tech. So we'll go over that right now. So this is a way to keep clones rooted in the fridge or not rooted, excuse me, keep clones kind of in stasis in the fridge for weeks. I mean, I've done this for months at a time. But we'll just basically do the same process. We're going to take off some more of these leaves that we don't really need. And then just take our water. I'm just going to wrap the base of the stem. And you can use a zip tie or a rubber band or whatever. I don't. I don't see these come apart ever. Now we're just going to do this. Oh. You don't want to pinch the leaf in the zip part, but that's it. And that can sit in the fridge for, like I said, weeks. The only trick with this is pull this out at least once a week and give it some air. So just like with your clones, you're going to want to open your clone dome and exchange the air because they get gross, and that's why we have vents and stuff like that. Open this, air it out like once a week, pull the plant out, maybe even pull it out of the bag, shake it off, kind of get rid of some of that water. If this is dry at all, you can kind of re-wet that, and then boom, back into the fridge. And I leave these in the crisper drawer, right? You've got a bunch of greens in there anyway, so just throw it in the crisper. Kyle, yeah, so when you're soaking in the fridge, I just do straight tap water. There's a little bit of chlorine in the tap water, and that helps keep it clean. If you use your fertilizer, you'll tend to get some like weird growth and stuff. Like even if it's a salt-based fertilizer, like microbes eat salt-based fertilizer, but that's not a voodoo or whatever. That's a thing. They eat the the NPK. So don't do that. Okay, let's see. Callus on roots. How are they formed? So callus is, it can be, it's a couple different things, but typically it's the plant's cellular response to an issue, right? So it'll form callus at where it's been cut, and a lot of those callus cells are then geared towards rooting. So if you're able to build a nice hardy callus right at your cut site, that's effectively what rooting hormone is doing. It's like the plant has a hormone when it gets cut to send callus. And then when you're using a rooting hormone, you're increasing that sort of plant awareness, right? Let's see. Yeah, you can just buy chlorine dioxide. There's a bunch of different brands. Like I said, Procure, Garden Clean. There's a company I work with called Vital Oxide. Like there's a bunch. Or just use household bleach. Like it's easy enough. Okay, cool. I just got to label this real quick. All right, sweet. Okay, and then how deep do we go into the plug? I like to go about halfway deep. That makes sense. So the plug is this big, so we go about halfway. You could go 3/4. You don't want to go all the way through to the bottom. I know some people do that for this callus tech, but I prefer not to. And then beer, yeah. So I don't worry about the clones touching one another. Like if you cut all of them, then you've got a vector for potential like mold or something to grow on one, and if it grows on one and it's touching another, right, that would be bad. But I do a fresh air exchange every day. So we'll open the dome, let air flow through the entire thing, kind of like fluff up the canopy a little bit, and then put the dome back on the next day. So we've got fresh air exchange every day, and it's very difficult for anything fungal or bacterial to take hold. All right, boom. So we got our next one. We've got our clean scissors. Yeah, so this is, the whole point of all of, the dip and grow or the Clonex on each thing and the scissors and the chlorine is just to avoid potential contamination, cross-contamination. Oh yeah, also Umami Style says clean the dome first. So we do, obviously you start with a clean dome, and then you're going to clean your dome when you do an air exchange. So you wipe it down. Oh, that clone's not going to make it. That's how that goes. Wipe it down. I like to use, now I'm completely forgetting what the name of that product is, Xeritol. Xeritol is a really good clean agent that's like not harsh on the plants. You can spray it on the plants. So we can use that to clean our domes and also spray the plants during the process because it's not harsh. And then the other cool thing, which I will do, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to spray all of these with Xeritol and Azagard. I think that's what it is. But the reason we're going to do that is it's an antifungal, right, from the Xeritol, and then the Azagard or Azatrol, I'm forgetting the name, but azadatrin, it's all the same active ingredient, will help reduce any insect feeding. So the cool thing about that is you can mix those two. So I use 25 milliliters per gallon of Xeritol as a spray all the time. And then if you want, you can add 4 milliliters per gallon of Azagard. I think it's Azagard. And that in conjunction works really good. There's no contamination or like not contamination. There's no negative interaction effect with those two. So that's a good blend, good all around IPM. Assuming you're in a state where they let you use azithrol, because sometimes they don't. I don't know why that is. I mean, neem oil has been potentially linked to the cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, which, I mean, all of those studies are, it's hard to know if that's actually like a genuine concern, or like at what point are you spraying that. Obviously, we don't want to spray anything in flower. Cloning stage, like now, it's I missed that one. Get that one? Must have. Okay, so keep going. All right, so yeah, chat's like wide open. Anybody who wants to chime in, ask questions about anything, all things cloning, you know, feel free. And which one? I always like to take more cuts than you need, and then you're able to select kind of the best ones from that population that you've got. We're only pulling the domes off for long enough to do an air exchange, right? We don't want to screw up the humidity too bad, because I mean, when we do an air exchange, we are obviously replacing the air, duh, which is going to have a different humidity than inside the dome. But the plants will quickly transpire and create more humidity in that dome. But if they're exposed to very low humidity for too long, or just a rapid shift in humidity, even like 10%, they're going to get really stressed out. So we're going to want to avoid that. Let's see. I'm just gonna set those down. This is what I said about spray or mist. Oh, so we are going to spray the clones with xeritol periodically. They really like it. It helps them stay super clean. You know, any kind of cut point, if they're too wet for too long, they can start to get mold. I mean, there's a lot of endophytes that live within the plant, and those are quite irritating for a number of reasons. You know, like regardless of how clean the outside of the plant is, it's literally inside the plant. And so you can clean the outside, but those endophytes will erupt out of the vascular system of the plant, or express themselves somewhere that there's an open wound. I don't use heating mats. I don't find a need for them, but my propagation room is usually 70, 78, 80 degrees, somewhere in there, typically around 80, and like 60% humidity. So it's warm in there already. Oh, see, so this one, I went too low, as you can see. So this will not end up going very well. So I'm going to do it again, just somewhere slightly off from that same hole. And now we're just trying to take the nice big meaty ones with a good kind of vertical stem. I mean, typically they will kind of straighten out in the dome. You know, if you have, like when you pull them out of the Ziploc bag, they're going to be pretty floppy to one direction. But after a day or so in the dome, they'll usually straighten out without any need to like correct them. You know, they know which way is up. So while it might not be pretty, you know, they'll prop themselves back up. Okay, got our next round. Twist that. And then I've just got a little area under here that's a little trash can, right? So remove the trash. All right, is this blurry for anybody? Or no? On my computer, it looks blurry, but on the phone, which is what I'm streaming from, it does not look blurry. So someone in the comments, let me know, is it blurry? Okay, great. Well, that is helpful to know. Let me see. Something I can do about that. All right, give me just a second. Let me see what is going on. Okay, well, that would make sense. All right, hold on. Let's just do. Okay, I think we're back. Is it there? It still looks blurry. Okay, fingers crossed. We'll try to get through this. I don't know why this is being so stupid. Like I said, it looks great, but yeah. Now is it blurry again? It looks blurry. I'm gonna keep going. Then yeah. Okay. Yep. Now it's even worse. Yeah. No, I mean I've had a bunch of Wi-Fi issues over the last like couple weeks. I literally had the guys here yesterday, and they replaced a bunch of cabling and stuff. It's really annoying because I have like the Wi-Fi, the router, the network is great, but the incoming signal is just really bad. All right, well, this is kind of ruining it for me. No one's going to want to watch a really blurry, dumb video, so let's see. Feels like we're back. Okay, I think we're back. Right? Seems like it. Maybe I'm just talking to myself. It wouldn't be the first time. Okay, cool. All right, boom. Man, cherry pie. Cherry motherfucking pie. Cherry pie's the best. Like, literally. And just look at these things. Like, just if it wasn't so greasy and it washed better and it wasn't like kind of a weird grower that goes really just one single stick and it had good branching, it would be really, really good. But look, it has none of those things. It has all the flavor in the world, but very few spectacular growth patterns. But hey, we don't grow it for the fact that it grows really good. Because if it grew really well, a lot of other people would grow it. And as far as I'm concerned, pie is basically an heirloom variety at this point. So let's throw some of these into Ziploc bag. Again, let's do the Ziploc bag tech real quick. Because I don't want to throw these away. Right, they're perfectly good. So we can save them for a rainy day. If they go bad in the fridge, no big deal. You've got fresh clones of them. But maybe you forget and all your clones dry up. You forget to water them. They just get super gross. Like, maybe it gets too hot in your room or some nonsense. Like, who knows what could happen. But you've got a backup in the fridge. So I don't like to do more than like 6 or so. This is 5. You do a whole giant bundle, and that typically is a problem. So just a few, 3, 4, somewhere in there. No need to do a ton. I prefer you don't do a ton, in fact. It also depends on how big the cuts are. If they're really big clones, still better to do less, right? Less is more for this one. Okay, cool. So chat looks good. The video looks way better. All right, I think we're good. So yeah, clone size, like somewhere in here, 4 inches, 5 inches, nothing crazy. If you have the big, tall domes, you can go taller, right? Nothing wrong with that. You get bigger, meatier plants when you go to plug them, or you can take little tiny baby clones. Like, kind of depends on what you want to do. I mean, one thing you want to avoid is them getting smashed against the top of the dome, which in this case, we're probably in that area. And I might pick off a few leaves that are nearing that sort of height level. Anything that's getting smashed, touched together, and it's just going to be constantly wet, can't exchange. There's no water exchange, just trapped, kind of recirculating water. It's going to get gross and moldy, and that's a whole thing. You want the stem to be less woody, fresh, pliant. Really hard wood cuts are harder to root. So fresh, healthy top growth is always going to be better. Yeah, so same process for Skittles clones. I actually don't think I have any Skittles in these trays, but just don't overwater your Skittles clones. And if you can, take them in a separate, never mix them with everything else. Like, put them in a separate container, separate dome with half the water you think you need, or less than half the water you think you need. Because Skittles just would rather die of dehydration, in my opinion, than anything else. Real dry. I think I missed some of these. Mine are just soaked all the way down because I've been talking for so long. I think that's what happened. But that's fine, because Clonex all the way into the media, so when you plug these in, they're going to have a really long exposure time to the rooting hormone. Like, you don't have to dip the outside of the plant on them, right? They're going to have contact time, plenty. And then you'll notice I don't do the shaving the bottom of the clones. I think that's a waste of time. For a couple, I think it's a waste of time. And then I also think that you're introducing a lot of, you're scraping a bunch of dead plant matter, which if you don't get all of that off and you stick it in your cube, it's just going to fester and mold and be gross. So if you don't have to, which I've never seen less success in just cutting at a 45-degree angle, I wouldn't, you know, I don't think it's necessary. Oh my goodness, are we blurry again? Looks like we're blurry. This is killing me. Hold on, let's check the internet speed real quick. Yep. Yep, the internet speed is bad. So for tech nerds, I have gigabit service, right? So I should get 1,000 megabytes down. You never get that, right, from your ISP. They say that, but you never actually get that. But hardwired, I would typically get like 950, you know, or 1,000, somewhere in there, or like, you know, 850, 950, which is plenty. It's crazy fast. Right now, we're at like 12. So that would be why the stream sucks so bad. No, I have 40 up. Is that not enough? Like, I know 40 is not spectacular, but Beer, what's your recommendation for upload? Wait, hold on. Yeah, 40, 40 up. Is that enough? If no, then that'd be helpful to learn, because I've not really. I mean, this is like the third live stream we did. I did the one on Twitter or X or whatever the hell that thing's called, and there wasn't any issues there. So I don't know. Oh yeah, well, yeah, I'm not a streaming expert either, so no worries there. But anybody who is, feel free to chime in. And 40 should be, yeah. See that? I thought 40 was a lot, you know, but maybe I don't know, because I do know speed and bandwidth are different, right? Like like pressure, like just because you have a ton of psi doesn't necessarily mean you get a lot of water flow, because you have like a like a small hose at low pressure versus big hose at, or small at high pressure versus big at low pressure, and it's like the same, something like that. I don't know. Still just learning. Yeah, if you don't mind asking Twitch homies what they do, or what to, you know, what you need or what to expect, and always appreciate any help that anyone can give. Okay, so we are down to our last one. I was going to do 2 trays because I had assumed that the stream would be reasonable, but we won't. We'll just do the one. Yeah, I'd be really surprised if someone was stealing my bandwidth, because like on the Deco app, I can see what we're using at any given time, and it's usually never. It's never even in the megabyte. It's always in the, you know, it's like a couple hundred KB. So I had thought we're not consuming a ton. And I have a ton of IoT devices and like all kinds of things that are connected to the internet, but I wouldn't think that those would be an issue, especially with something like, you know, streaming a video. But again, I don't know. I'm learning. We're learning together, everyone in the chat and I, about how this stuff works. Okay, dope. Okay, so we made it to this stage. Okay, this is Umami style. I used to just do like 25 in a tray in a flat of 50, so I'd do 3 2 3 2 3 2 3 2 3 2 3 2, which gave me a little bit more space. However, you know, I kind of ran into the issue where I need 50 in a dump. You know, I have to take too many plants. Like, we've got thousands You know, I've got hundreds of moms, so we have to jam in 50. So we rock 50. But as long as you exchange the air constantly, them touching isn't a big deal. You know, you saw I took off a decent chunk of leaf. So, for example, I was saying I was going to cut some of these extra ones off that are kind of obnoxiously big. And then, like, let's see if I can get a good, I have the camera in the overhead view, but I want, like, you know, good. So when we go to exchange the air, I don't want a ton of leaf down in here. I want good airflow to penetrate all the way through and exchange, because this is where a lot of dead stagnant air is going to get trapped anyway, right? These little pockets. So we want to get all of that air exchanged quickly, and then we can put a dome on. But since this is our first run, we don't need to worry about that. So last thing is we take our, actually, before we do the dome, I almost forgot. This step isn't, you know, absolute must do, but I like to do it because I think it's, for me, it's a must, you know. We have cut leaves, so there are little points of, you know, there's wounds that we have. So we'll take our xylitol, 25 mils a gallon, and I'm just going to give kind of the bottoms here, like where we've taken, you know, branches off, kind of cut areas in the node, and then we're just going to spray the top of the leaves, and then we'll take our dome, and like we've already cleaned the dome with chlorine, we've soaked it just like we cleaned the trays. We've rinsed it off, it's dry, it's very clean. So a little bit of xylitol doesn't hurt to help keep it very clean. And that's that. Yeah, the xylitol, like, I was kind of on the fence about xylitol, because I'm like, how good can it really work? Hydrogen peroxide is cheap, and I could just use that. The combination of the hydrogen peroxide and the parasitic, whatever the other acid is, just works super good. Like, super good. When we're cloning from tissue culture, they always tend to get, like, they have no immune system, effectively, when you pull them from TC. So if there's a chance for them to mold, they will immediately. So spraying them with the xylitol just kills the mold instantly. It keeps those super, super healthy and super, super clean. I haven't seen any issues with, like, light burn or anything like that. I have them under low light, just clone LEDs, you know, nothing fancy. And that's it. I mean, that's the last thing, is I always have, like, a label. So I just print these out. I've got this little thermal printer. You do the date. I do what I use. So if it was dip and grow, it'd be dip and grow, or clone it, or nothing. Or if we're doing, like, an experiment, just like a note, right, of what you were kind of doing. And then I do, so, like, usually I'll do a full tray of whatever. So if it's cherry pie, we do 50 cherry pie. And then this kind of QR code just helps me track where those came from. So, like, that QR code will stay with those plants throughout their life. So when they get transplanted, they'll keep that QR code. When they become a mom, they'll keep that QR code. And then we can kind of backtrack and be like, okay, well, when did we take these clones? On which date? What mom did they come from originally? So if there was any reason to, like, do a thorough accounting of where they were, how they got there, where they had been, you know, like, let's say there was a viroid outbreak, we could, like, go all the way back and find the source, which, you know, luckily we've never had to do, but not a bad idea to have, you know, have, like, that trackability. Let's see. Yeah, I don't use the heat blankets, you know. If your grow room is, like, cold, maybe, but I mean, your room shouldn't be any, like, colder than 80. So realistically, you know, your black trays should be, like, in the high 70s, you know. And then if you've got multiple layers of like, racks or whatever, you've got lights directly under the rack at each level. So you've got two heat sources that are emanating heat upwards. It's going to hit your rack. So, like, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, no, Umami style. I don't like. We've not had any issues with Xeritol under light. Like I wouldn't put it under HID lights. You know. Yeah, I don't crack the domes for a couple. Yeah, I don't crack these for a couple days. I will. So like tomorrow, for example, let's pretend it's tomorrow. Okay, I'm gonna come in, pull the dome off. I'm gonna usually I like put this in front of a fan or something so it blows air. So we want to refresh all the air. Want to make sure it will probably spritz the dome again with Xeritol. We'll wipe the dome down because there'll be a lot of water in here, right? Because the plants are going to transpire. So we'll wipe the dome down. We'll get rid of that water, do the very light misting of Xeritol. These little spray bottles are so good. You squeeze it one time and it sprays the finest mist for like 5 seconds. You know, it's just like click and spray. So these are gangbusters and they're cheap. I love these. I thought they were dumb and then I got some and way better than like this kind of a bottle. So quick spritz and then back. And then I will start cracking the dome probably day 3, day 4, you know, and I'll do like a half crack, you know. I mean, if you really want to like crack, you can just do the littlest bit. And then I'll still the same process. I'll still pull the dome off, clean the dome, spray the dome, air exchange, put the dome back on, you know, and then just kind of slowly work these. And then eventually, like, especially when you've got a tray full of 50, they transpire quite a bit. So even if these vents are wide open, this dome will still get super full of water, cloudy. You know, you will have to go and wipe the dome regularly. And then in that case, right, it's harder to like reduce the humidity levels because the plants are producing so much humidity all the time. And the dome is full, so there's not like a lot of space for it to get out. So the thing I was showing earlier is you can take like take a Rockwell plug or a, you know, peat plug and just kind of like, let's see if I can, yeah, I got a bad angle, but like crack the dome this way with, you know, I mean, one way you can do it, which I've done in the past, is like this, right, with a plant tag or, you know, a plug or something. So that's another good way to help get the air exchanged. And then once the humidity in the dome, like once there's not a ton of moisture in the dome or no moisture in the dome, you know you've effectively got the conditions in the dome the same as the conditions outside the dome, and then you're pretty much free to take the dome off and your plants are hardened off to the existing humidity. But any wild swing in humidity is obviously not your friend, right? That's all bad. Like anything more than 5 or 10% for 5 or 10 minutes is rough. Like if you say you're exchanging the air in a bunch of domes and you like leave a dome off for 15 minutes because you went and got like a drink or something, you're going to come back and the plants are not going to look good. They're going to be quite unhappy. 95% of the time you can throw the dome back on and they'll recover just fine. But they will wilt like crazy. And I've seen all sorts of anti-wilting spray stuff that's got like plastic and all kinds of weird, you know, whatever in it, like that snake, I think it's called snake skin or something along those lines. People from the old Magnum triple XL hood, Raptor triple XL hoods will remember that stuff. But I don't think it ever worked and it was kind of just gross. So they're in the domes usually 10 days or so. You can tell they start getting pretty thorough root growth. Like 8 to 10 days is pretty much how long the dome is on top. And then we'll pull the dome off and they'll be in, like my standard 14 days is how long they're going to be on a rack in a tray before they go and get transplanted. Like they'll get transplanted on day 14. Always good to take, if you can, I like to take, you know, an extra 30% of what I actually need. So I can pick the top 7 out of, you know, 10 plants or even like top 5 out of 10 to transplant. because the last thing you want is like you've got one little runty, wilted fucking clone, and that's the only one you have for that cultivar. And then you transplant that, and it's, you know, they bounce back, they'll be fine, but every time you do that is a chance that those plants slowly get worse over time. You know, you want to take, I mean, the perfect run is a perfect mom, ultimate maximum healthy mom, a perfect clone, perfect veg, perfect transition, perfect bloom, perfect, like, you can't skip a beat. They don't have enough time. The plants, their life cycle is so fast that 24 hours for the plant is like years and years in terms of like a person, right? So can you imagine how healthy are you going to be when you've been sick for 3 years straight or something? It's not going to go well. I do 18 hours of light for clones. All right. Well, the stream seems to not be. Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, no, I think we're good. Stream seems to be going fine. So we're gonna do this next tray, and then if the stream decides to kill itself, we'll just let it die, and let you guys go enjoy your Friday. But yeah, how cool are these? So these are Jiffy plugs, like that. You know, the same ones at Home Depot that you like hydrate or whatever. Same company, not same ones. They've got mycorrhizae embedded in them. You can see little like patches of mycos growth, these little white bits. You know, if you want, like, just take some xeritol and like clean them, and this will kill all of the surface stuff. Boom. Curtis, get at us on our website, or hit me on Telegram, or hit up Umami Style. We can get you sorted out. We've got some Canada partners who can probably get that arranged. Okay, so oh, I do. I use these to root TC explants. Absolutely, I do. Yeah, I put them in the autoclave beforehand. Like, I wrap them in tinfoil, and I autoclave them so they're sterile. But these are actually my favorite thing to root TC plants. I don't like rooting in vitro. Well, I like rooting in vitro. I don't like rooting with the gel, because the gel is basically sugar, and you have to use like less of the hardening agent in the gel, because if it's like really thick gel, it doesn't wash off the roots well. The roots are super brittle when they're coming out of TC, and so you have to rinse off all that gel, and if you don't, it will immediately start to mold and gross, and it'll kill the plant. So you've seen my TC vessels. We'll do another. I'll show you one of the TC live streams that I'm planning is a how to root. Technically, it's ex vitro because, you know, it's not 100% sterile, but I'll be showing you exactly how I do that, using these in these little clone things. Well, here, I've got one right here, so I can. But I use these guys. They hold 12. They have like a little 12 banger cell thing in there, and this is what I use to root TC plants. I also use the like deli cups, the like 32-ounce deli cups, but sometimes the plants can fall over in those. So they work really good. And then I spray just the same with the xeritol. I spray these with xeritol, spray the clones with xeritol. They stay really clean. It works out really pretty good. Oh yeah, no, the mycos could definitely screw them up. So I autoclave them. I mean, anything you're doing with tissue culture involved in TC with the plants needs to be sterile. So whether there's a lot of different ways to sterilize stuff. But yes, it does get autoclaved. You are Correct. Yeah, no, the video that I did was transplanting the Jiffy plants, or transplanting the TC clones, not rooting the TC clones. So we'll do like a rooting the TC clone video. And so you might notice these clones are a little bit smaller. Why is that? And the answer is these all are Gen 1 TC clones. So we brought the mom out, we rooted the mom, and the mom is like still a little bit on the smaller side. These are some of the lowers, just taking some extra TC cuts. This was the nice top. So I mean, you know, once a TC plant gets established, it's no different than the other clones we've been plugging, right? It looks big, healthy. It's a regular clone. You know, they're not small for long. They do start out a little wonky though. They look a little goofy when they're little. No doubt about that. Again, this is more TC explants. Just have wild leaf patterns. And then if you're not doing, I mean, under normal circumstances, I like to label every single plant if I'm doing multiple varieties in a tray, because you pull out like one over here and it's not labeled, and you only have labels on one. It's a total pain. But in this case, we're trying to go quick and not have you just sit here watch me write labels, because I don't like writing the labels, and I can imagine watching someone write the labels is not, you know, not an interesting thing to do. Okay, so let's see. Okay, swap those out. So yeah, just always be making sure these are soaking in your chlorine. This chlorine, like almost all chlorine, will break down over time. So the reason I use, this isn't Procure, I'm just using this Procure bottle because it's black and it helps keep, like light is the enemy of chlorine. So this helps keep it for at least 30 days. It's still the same, or roughly the same strength after 30 days. So I usually do like a little thing with like, hey, this is the ppm and the date, so that we know. This is, I didn't update it because I just filled this up right before the stream, but this would be a good way to know what's what. So, and then this won't last, like if you're doing a ton of clones, I would maybe swap this out between every tray, or at least, like, it doesn't last 2 days. Like you can't come in tomorrow and be like, oh, let's, you know, keep, you know, like, no, this, you need to throw this out and pour fresh. So I'll just pour it straight from this bottle, and that way we make sure we use this in 30 days, because you don't want to be wasting. It's not like chlorine, you know, it's like bleach is expensive. Chlorine dioxide can be a little expensive, but it's just, you know, there's no reason to be wasteful on account of just wanting to be wasteful. Yeah, you got to be careful with the labels. I get far less like leaking, like, you know, the color fading or whatever with chlorine than I do with alcohol. But that's one of the big reasons I use the thermal label printer, especially on TC vessels. Because I see a lot of people just use the deli cup and then write what the strain is with a Sharpie, and the second you pull that and spray it with alcohol to clean the surface, and then you go into your TC hood, like, wait, what was this one again? Like, I forgot. The thermal label does not come off with with alcohol or bleach, because it's the thermal label. If you leave the thermal label in the sun, you know, that doesn't work. If you've ever accidentally left like a receipt on your dashboard and came back to see it like black, that's the same thing, right? It's just like heat exposure over time makes it weird. So we're doing some Zeal right now. These are all Gen 1 clones. So the way that we run that is a tissue culture, a plant that comes out of tissue culture. We usually call that Gen 0. And then using a Gen 0 mom, taking Gen 1 clones from that mom, you've got really healthy clones. And this is kind of, ideally, if we ever do standard cloning, this is how we'll do it, all coming from Gen 1 population. So we're slowly getting the rest of the population in through the whole TC process. And then that is allowing us to only bring in Gen 0 mothers into the greenhouse, which we then cut standard clones from those Gen 0 mothers. You know, the best of the best of the best is to exclusively grow from culture and have 100% of your plants be Gen 0s, which we're working towards that goal, but it's not obviously that's not as easy as you know, it sounds. Okay, Kyle, no concern over starting bloom. Yeah, no. So yeah, it's funny. A lot of people think like, oh, they don't have light in the fridge, or you know, they don't have enough this or they don't have enough that, and it's, you know, while those are valid concerns and valid questions, the plant goes into a sort of stasis. So you kind of got to suspend your, oh, well, they typically need this. It's like, well, not if they're asleep, right? They're hibernating, for lack of a better term. And they will slowly drink water, right? The fridges are typically dry, so they will absorb water. Like they'll draw water out of the plant. And so the plant will kind of, while it's asleep, effectively be pulling water from the media out. It will transpire a little bit, and the only thing you got to worry about there is just making sure the rock wool or the peat or whatever your media is, it just stays moist. So if I'm putting clones, like rooted clones in the fridge, which rooted clones in the fridge last longer than clones in the Ziploc bag. So you can do that, but you do need to water them like once a week. Ooh, 2025 strain. Man, that's a good question. We have a lot of new Zclair hybrids that we're coming out with. So I gotta say, some of the new Zclair stuff is going to be crazy good. Very, very excited. We've got Zclair F2. We've got a few different phenos of Zclair that we're reversing and playing around with, and we got some new collabs with some really cool breeders that I'm super stoked about. So I can't say too much about it just yet, but 2025 and 26 is definitely going to be the fucking year of Zclair. So yeah, Gen 0, I would only classify like a real Gen 0 as something that came from meristem. So there's a lot of like debate on if a nodal culture is even a tissue cultured plant, which is silly. It is. But if you want the benefits of turning back the clock, like the benefit of tissue culture is you can effectively turn back the clock on a plant, right? Bring it back to its original state from the first time you cloned off of the seed that you popped. So if you think about like a human being, right? It's like regrowing yourself from zero. So if you broke your arm when you were a kid, you've got scar tissue where your arm was broken. Maybe you've got tattoos or like whatever. If you a human could do a Gen Zero like meristem culture, you would regrow your entire body from scratch, and you'd be fresh, right? No problems, no whatever. So we have to think of it like that, which nodal culture does not do that. So what I like to do is meristem culture everything. Typically, we will do nodal culture to get it in vitro, and then we'll do a meristem culture off of that nodal culture, and then regrow the meristem plant, and then micropropagate those, and then root out those final plants. So that's kind of how that process works, if that ramble makes sense. But I'm sure some people would disagree with me, but that is my understanding, is that you don't get the same benefits from just standard. Because I mean, nodal culture is just micro clones in a sterile environment, right? There's nothing that unique or special about it. Okay, so let's see. Highest washer. That depends. Some of the really crazy washers that we've got right now, Crisps washes really well. There's some Zeal phenos that wash really well. Zello does a really good job. Like we've seen 7-8% on a couple Zello phenos. Shitachu usually does 4+%, which is obviously rock solid. 4, 5, 6%. So any of those are really, really solid. And then some of the new stuff that we have coming out is all, again, geared for washing. Some are higher performance varieties that we want to be hitting some big wash numbers, especially now that the days of BHO are long gone, and if you're going to make an extract, it probably needs to be a non-solvent extract. So we're always working to breed for varieties which will wash really high. Yeah, the Zellos that I've seen were not small, not at all. I mean, there's always going to be some smaller phenos with any variety. But like I said, the Zello phenos that we saw, hunted, and went and checked out some commercial facilities up in the Bay Area, like Preferred Garden, Dave, and some of those other ones. Those were big stacky plants. Yeah, no, live rosin is king. No doubt. I don't really smoke much flower, but I do smoke a lot of rosin, and live rosin is king. I don't know if there's much debate about that anymore, but I fully endorse that argument. Yeah, so back to beers question, or we are kind of a TC chat. Yeah, it's a little bit easier to initiate and then go from clean initiates into meristem, because cleaning, getting, like, when you like dissect the meristem, you want that all to be sterile and clean, and chlorine touching the insides of those really delicate pieces of the plant is going to be very harsh for that like very soft tissue. So if we can get them initiated and kind of know that they're clean before we start to chop them up and really go into the node and grab the meristem, that is something we're gonna want to do. Oop. So yeah, the other thing with cuts in a cup. So I was trying to do this video on Wednesday, but I had a busy day on Wednesday, and then I was going to do it on Thursday, but was gone all day Thursday. So we did it today. So these have been in the fridge for like 4 days. This cup had maybe a third of the water in it, and it is now basically empty. So if you do the fridge clone cup tech, you don't want to fill the water up all the way, because if you do, the clones start to bend because there's so much of them saturated. Like, I don't know why they do that, but they will start to kind of curve at the bottom, which is annoying. We don't want that. So only fill it up to like a third of the way, and then just be paying a lot of attention, and then filling the water back to a third when they start to get a little dry. Which the more plants you have in the container, the quicker the water will evaporate. Because like they're not, you know, they're kind of in stasis, you know, like they've hardened up, they are in a little bit of a stasis, so they do take like a moment to kind of kick back but I mean, look at them, like they're perky as all hell, you know. It's not like they're floppy and weird and they're going to take a couple days to like wake back up, you know. They're pretty quick to adjust. Just like if you know, we're growing outside or in a greenhouse, you know, like we get 40 degree nights, and so they have a 40 degree night. How different is a 40 degree night than 40 degrees in your fridge? And then the next morning they wake up and it's 80 degrees that day, you know. It's not like that aggressive of a transition. I mean, it's not aggressive, you know, but it's not that bad. They're, you know, they're pretty hardy, you know, like they're all pretty strong. You don't need to baby them too much. And if you do have to baby something too much, maybe it's not a real viable plant to keep around, with the notable exception of Skittles. But I mean, dude, I've tried to get rid of Skittles so many times. Like, she has knocked on death's door at least half a dozen times, and every time I always think like, well, this is it, you know, like this is it for her. There's a 0 chance that she's gonna make it. And then I do that like Dolph Lundgren meme, where it's like, if she dies, she dies, and she never dies. She's always somehow sticks around. I don't know what that is. So it's like, okay, if you're gonna stick around, that's fine by me. Okay, last, let's see, I'm gonna throw these into the fridge. Okay, let's see. Yeah, no, I mean, those weak, shitty plants, man. Like, why? And like, you know, a lot of times if you're pheno hunting a variety, and people are like, oh, this one's terrible, it didn't grow good, it was runty, and it was this and it was that, like, you know, could be a valid concern. You know, maybe the plant was runty and sick and slow and should be thrown away. But you know, I've had countless times where I overwatered, or I underwatered, or I overfed, or I, you know, screwed up somewhere in the process, and that really runty, shitty plant that I was going to throw away looked so good on the second round, like, or on the third round. It's happened. I can't say how many times it's happened. So now I'll typically keep stuff around for at least 2 or 3 runs before I make like a final executive decision where, you know, live or die kind of a thing. Let's see. Transfer rooted clone to solo. No, I mean, I'll pull clones out of the fridge. So rooted clones coming out of the fridge. Here's how you can do it a number of different ways. They will pretty much be fine if you plug them and stick them under relatively low lighting. Like, don't stick them under a fucking HPS light and bake them out, right? But if you transition them into the side of your room, like on a rack somewhere, they'll be just fine. What I like to do is I'll pull them out of the fridge, and then I will just leave them like on the floor or on a table in a room, so they're kind of just getting used to that environment of the room. Just kind of slowly let them come to room temperature, and then transplant them, and they'll be fine. So, man, root beer flavor, I wish. I have not ever found like a root beer kind of terp. I know good old Mean Gene has a root beer. I've never tried it, so I can't say how much like root beer it actually smells or tastes like. I'd love to know, but no, I don't have any root beer terps right now. So a lot of Zeclair kind of funk, and then what I'm doing is bringing a lot of like old school classics and mixing them with some of the Zeclair phenos we have that are a little bit more kind of new school, not candy gas, but like gas candy with like kind of a bit of a funk to them. So we've got, a bunch of old school OGs, got some perps like GDP, trying to get this Grape Ape from Omakase Farms. Hopefully he is cool to give that to me, and we can do a little Omakase Umami collab, which, obviously we should do, because he's cool and does really good work. And like I said, that Grape Ape is just crazy good. So trying to kind of mix some of the old school favorites with some of these new varieties that I've done. And then now that we have a little bit more space, we're building out probably 1,500 square feet of sort of pheno hunting space. And I'm going to have a chance to go through my old seed library and just hunt a bunch of different flavors, try and find something new, something different. Something new, something old, right? Or new. Something that hasn't been found before, was never really popular, because we didn't know any better. Yeah, let's see. Mr. Hotspot, what about TC? Man, you missed the TC video last week. We're gonna do another live in the lab next week. So I think on Wednesday we're gonna do another live in the lab. I've got like a better camera setup, with hopefully the internet. I get that fixed by next week, so we don't have the same problem we had today. But we will do like an overhead view of a bunch of TC stuff. But speaking of TC, one of the other cool things we're going to do is, and speaking of old school flavors, is embryo rescue. So I've been working on sort of mastering, which I'm not, by no means have I mastered it, but I can actually do it now. Embryo rescue, which is taking seeds and then breaking them open, splitting them open, and then removing the embryo from the seed, and then putting that into tissue culture media and starting the seed in vitro. Because the older the seeds get, the less energy, I guess, they have to break the seed coat. The seed gets harder. It's less likely to absorb water, and like there's that hormonal trigger that tells the seeds to start growing. Is just that there's less. I don't know exactly the physical manifestation of what that process is or how that works, but whatever that chemical pathway is there's some problem with it. So what you can do is sort of manually go in and remove the seed, remove the embryo from the seed, and then put it in vitro. And most of the time they'll grow. So old seeds that you can't crack, and they make those little seed cracker devices and stuff like that. That's kind of to help the process. But, especially when they're really old seeds, they're super susceptible to mold and just getting contaminated. People take an old seed and crack it and put it in soil that has a ton of mycos and stuff like that. And I mean, those bacteria are like equal opportunists to food sources, right? They don't distinguish whether the food is in the soil or is in the, inside the seed itself. And so they'll just go and eat whatever they can eat. And if there's a bunch of soft, carbohydrates and sugars and ATP to be found inside of a seed, they're just going to go get that. Like, they don't care. So I will be streaming from the microscope. I haven't figured out exactly how to do it yet. I know I can. I just haven't set it up and done it. But we will be streaming from the microscope and doing some embryo rescue as well as some meristem dissection and removal. Julian, we will be at Mary Jane Berlin 2025. We will. At the very least, we'll be there, wandering around, hanging out, smoking hash and chopping it up. But we also really want to get a booth. We've got a new EU distributor for seeds, and we're in negotiations right now with a group to bring our genetics via tissue culture to Europe, and they can do distribution into pretty much any country in the EU. So official certified Umami genetics will be available to everyone in, at the very least, Europe. No, I have a lot of old seeds as well, and it is a crime for them to just sit in the fridge and slowly die. So we are going to be really working to make sure that we can bring those out sooner rather than later, because they don't last forever, and a lot of these things are 40 years old already, like 50 years old. So they're getting to that. If they weren't stored properly, they're really getting to that point. But I'm sure some of you have seen there's that news article about some scientists that found a date palm that was in, I don't know, was it Egypt or somewhere, in like a terracotta pot or something that was 30,000 years old. 3,000 years old? I can't remember. I think it was like 30 or 27,000 years old. It seemed like a comically long time. But they were able to take that and run it through tissue culture and germinate it, and now they've brought back these once extinct plants just because they had some seeds that were stored in a pot in a cave somewhere. Someone look that up and confirm if it was 3,000 or 30,000. Either one, it's ridiculous. I swear it was like 30,000. Yeah, those Gym Crush are big time winner right there. Love the Gym Crush. Okay, well, so yeah, we did our 2 trays. I don't know what I've got to do some more trays, but I need to prep a bunch of stuff because I only prepped for 2. So we'll do some more. Like I said, we'll do another live stream next week. We'll do live in the lab, do some TC stuff next week. Maybe we'll do some initiations, some transplanting, maybe show you, because last week we did microprop. So we might take those plants that we pulled out and micropropped and root those. so we can kind of go through the whole process with them. Show you the the whole thing, and then said we're doing a bunch of initiations, and then once I get the microscope, which it's funny, it's actually, I don't know if I can get this in the frame. It's this microscope that I use. So, which it has a hookup on the back. I can record and all that stuff. So the very worst case scenario, I'll just record and cut together a video of me doing it. But it would be kind of cool to see live. It takes me about 5 minutes per meristem culture, so that's not terribly long to watch, and it's pretty interesting, but it's just my shaky hands trying to not contaminate or mess up the culture at all. Okay, 30,000 years old. Boom. Crazy. How absurd is that? Okay, so they were found in permafrost. Well, that would make more sense. So keep your seeds in the fridge. If you buy seeds, if you make seeds, they will stay viable for a long time if they're stored in the fridge. Like, when you get them from a seed bank, put them in the fridge. Leave them in the fridge until you want to germinate them. And then pull them out of the fridge, let them come to room temperature, and then I like to do a soak. My favorite is, actually, since we're here, I'll show you real quick. I do 1% hydrogen peroxide. So just your standard drugstore H2O2. It's always 3%, or almost always. I'm pretty sure it's always 3%, right? So it's easy to go from 3% to 1%. It's 1 part hydrogen peroxide to 2 parts water. So then we get 1% hydrogen peroxide. And I'll usually do, 30 milliliters of this with another 60 milliliters of water. Toss your seeds in there, let them soak 24 hours, and then put them in peat plugs, rock wool, soil, cocoa, whatever you're gonna do. So this helps kind of soften the seed coat, helps make sure that it's clean, because you can clean seeds with bleach the exact same way I showed with the cleaning seeds or cleaning plants for kind of our TC prep, where we clean clones to bring into our garden. It's the exact same with 5,000 ppm. We wash them for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we wash them with water, and then the outside of the seed is then sterile. You don't necessarily need to do that, but you could do that. This just helps keep it clean, as opposed to just using tap water or whatever. And then there's oxygen right in here, so that also helps the seeds not to drown, because if they do sit, when they crack, sometimes they will sink to the bottom. Whether seeds float or sink originally is not necessarily indicative of whether they're going to germinate or not. But you don't want them sitting underwater for days at a time. So I like to do 24 hours, let them soak, and then plug them. And then if you are having a tough time, or the seeds are old or whatever, you can kind of take that, put it in paper towel, and just put the seeds in the paper towel, and then let that sit for another day or so, because they won't drown with the paper towel, but they will be able to grow a little bit. And then a cool trick with that is if you, let's see. So we're going to pretend that we've got our paper towel, right? And let's see. Here, I've just got. So just a little bit of water on our paper towel. We don't want this thing soaking wet. So this would be our 3% hydrogen peroxide and water. So put your seeds in there, right? Fold it over. Okay, everyone knows this, right? And then you can kind of poke the edges so it stays together, kind of like a pastry. And then if you want to get really tech, what you can do is put this in a Ziploc bag and then hang your Ziploc bag vertically like this. And what that will do is it will cause the plants know which way is up. So the roots know which way is down. So if you've ever done this flat and you see the roots get all wonky and like, you know, they're curly and weird, this will help the plant send roots down the paper towel. So your tap root will be, you'll have your seed and then you'll have your tap root straight down. It is kind of more annoying. You got to put it in a bag and like orient it correctly and then like use something, tape or, you know, a little clip or something to like hold it up. But that works super good. Yeah, no, like Brian said, 8 to 24 hours right into I wouldn't go into a 1 gallon. You can, you know, as long as you don't overwater. I would go into a smaller size container, but whatever works. And then under the clear solo cup is that's good tech because you don't want the seeds to dry out too quickly. You do want it to be like a pretty moist area. So if you're going to do it in a big, like a bigger pot, don't make sure the whole pot isn't wet, right? You're only going to water the little section where the seed is, right? Like if it's in a 1 gallon pot, only water like what a solo cup would be. Pretend you're watering a solo cup in the 1 gallon or even half of a solo cup. But I'm sure Brian knows that, but that's for anyone who doesn't know that. Yes, so the Ziplocs do that in the dark. Like I have these like silver Mylar bag things, or just any Mylar bag is a good water, like air water, is a good light proof thing, or at least mostly light proof. So here, like I think I have some like right here. So I have just a bunch of these like little, you know, Mylars. So I'll do the paper towel and then fold it, fit it, and then do that, hang it vertically. So it's, you know, relatively dark. I mean, it's pretty much light proof in there. And then put this in your veg room or whatever. Yeah, I mean, like this part doesn't have to be in the dark because, I mean, if you've done the paper towel method, you've seen the first set of plant leaves. Like if they have light, they will turn green and they will start to photosynthesize. And if they don't, they'll stay like white or yellow. So that doesn't, you know, I don't know if one way is necessarily better than the other. I would think as soon as it's got leaves, it should be in the light, because if it was in the soil, as soon as it's got leaves and it busts through the soil, it's in the light as well. But like I said, I typically do, typically I just do the 3% hydrogen peroxide. They all start to germ. You know, you see the tails spit, and then I just go straight into these little Jiffy plugs, or I'll go into like a, let's see where. I don't use red cups because they don't fit. Like these, you can fit. I think you can fit 24 of these on a 1020 flat, which is your standard clone tray. So I like these. They're like 3.5 or some inch pots, and I'll do them about halfway full of soil, and then put the seed down in there, and then as the seed, because you know sometimes seedlings get like a little wonky and kind of outgrow themselves, and then you can add soil to kind of make the seed grow. You know, like shorten up the stem, right, a little bit. So yeah, that's yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, like I'll probably do some like update videos with this set of clones, and we can go through, you know, what they look like in a couple days. We'll do another xeritol thing. Maybe I'll do like a, you know, I don't know how fast I can do like a update post or whatever, like, hey, here's the process. We pulled this off. We aired it out. We stuck it back on. Call it a day. And then we'll probably do another one of these like clone live streams in a 2 weeks or so when they're ready to transplant. And we'll go through the, here's how I like to transplant, which is 24 of these on a 1020. I fill them all with cocoa or peat or whatever I'm using. 2 fingers, kind of make a hole, stick those in, pat it down, give them a little water, call it a day. So we'll get after that in 2 weeks when they're all rooted. But that's that. I mean, just like, you know, you all saw kind of the size of the plants that I put in the cups. They're big, you know, they're 8 to 10 inches tall, you know, 6, 7, 8 inches. Doesn't really matter how big, but you never want to like leave this and then clone, like just stick this. Like this will not, in my experience, this is not like a great success. Great success, not great success. I'll always take a fresh snip and plug them. And then if you don't have really sharp scissors, don't do the quick scissor method that I do. Use a razor blade. Clean your surface in between each one, because if you lay this down and you take your razor blade and you cut it, and then you lay the next one, you cut it, you know, it's all well and good. And then you go to your next set and now you have a bunch of water and plant juices that if you take the new, pretend this is a next clone segment, you take this and you cut it in the same place, you know, you've got to clean your razor blade between, just like we're cleaning the scissors, but now you've just contaminated your surface again. So you have to clean the surface every single time between varieties or between mothers or however you want to designate that. So that's why I like to use the sharp scissors, and I go up into the 3rd dimension so I'm not touching anything, and I just boom. And then this is just keeps the table clean and, you know, is a surface that I can work off of. Yeah, no, I do not re-veg ever, unless something terrible has happened. I always keep backups. So I like to do, here's my backup tech, which is not going to work for everybody, but this is how I do it. So every variety, let's say I have 100 varieties, which I have a little more than that at any given time, like 100 different phenos, but let's call it 100. So out of that, I have 4 moms of each one, or at least 2, like 2 big moms of every single variety, okay? And then I have 2 to 4 teens of every single one of those moms. And then I have 2 to 4 rooted clones in the fridge of every one of those. And then I have 2 to 4 clones that are rooting of every one of those. And then I have a couple cuts in the fridge in a Ziploc bag. And then I have them in tissue culture. So like, it is nearly impossible for me to lose genetics because there's so many copies everywhere in every state that like I have to get hit with a meteor, you know, in order to actually lose varieties. And then I have some off-site facilities that also have those same varieties. So multiple places would have to get hit with meteors at the same time. So I don't ever have to re-veg because I never put something in flower that I don't have or can't get back out. Yeah, no, we'll try to add some more stuff to the Discord and do some more like short tutorial videos. I'm trying to do a bunch of stuff with YouTube just because it's a little more, you know, it is a fucking video platform, so it's a little easier to do this sort of a thing. But like quick, hey, here's my method to do this. And it doesn't have to be a fucking, however long this video was, you know, it doesn't have to be 2 hours or an hour and a half or whatever. Of us just, 2 hours, right? An hour and 10 minutes. of us just kind of chatting and doing the thing. Because if you want to just learn how to do this thing quickly, could be done in a less than 5-minute video of do this, do this, do this, do this. End of story. Okay, cool. Well, thank you everyone who tuned in. Appreciate you taking time out of your Friday to hang out with me and do some clones. If anyone has suggestions for live streams in the future that you might want to watch, feel free to send me an email, drop them in the comments. You know, whatever, like whatever you want to see. I mean, we do, like, I like to joke, you know, we have a hashtag on Instagram, all in-house everything. And that's not like it's a joke, but it's not. We literally do all in-house everything. You know, we do hash, we make seeds, we do tissue culture, we make clones. Like, I learned how to code to build an automation system to run the greenhouse. Like, you know, there's a lot of stupid things I've spent my entire life learning how to do, and some of it's actually really kind of cool. So if you want to, know how to build an automation system, or you want to, learn fucking how to train mother plants, or like what's the easiest way to set up multiple layers of trellis so they're all lined up, so you don't, accidentally, chop half your plant when you're pulling it out of the net when you're done with harvest. Like, how do I tune my irrigation systems? Because I've been hand watering and I'm over watering, or I don't have, how much water is too much water? Like, how aggressive should you really be crop steering? Can you go too aggressive with crop steering? Like, yeah, you absolutely fucking can. So anything in the space that you know about, want to learn more about, have heard about, think might be cool, like, I'm all ears. I'm totally open. I'm happy to talk about it and nerd out about it. And, if I can turn it into a cool video and we can chop shit up, then yeah, let's totally do that. Oh yeah, no, bro, I can't tell you how many ESP32s I have. A lot. Like a lot. Hundreds, I think. Maybe not hundreds. Probably about 100. But I'm getting a little upset at ESPs. They're just not. I don't know if it's my networking. It could be, because the Wi-Fi has been like really bad and annoying. But there's now a Zigbee-based ESP32, which I'm gonna try to use those a bunch, because my Zigbee network is like really, really rock solid. The only thing I have that drops off the network pretty consistently is the ESPs, and there's not that much. Like, there's not that many things that the ESPs are doing that I couldn't do with a Zigbee-based ESP32, or like Zigbee-based relays. Like, using ESPs to trigger relays for, I have a million 12-volt and 120-volt and 3-volt, devices all over the greenhouse. And so, like, using the ESP to trigger those relays has been, like, good, not great. The M5 stack stuff, like those atoms, work super good. But again, they still, like, they still have, they're not great. But the Zigbee-based 4-channel relays are awesome, and they're not that expensive, and I've not had a single issue with them since I got them in. Yeah, I don't know if it's a router or a bandwidth problem. Like, I have, I've got a mesh network with Deco, the Wi-Fi 6 Deco shit, so it's supposed to be really, really good. I don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on like a Ubiquiti setup. I feel like I'm not, like, that is unnecessary. But we'll find out. Now I never had to learn networking, but now we're doing that, and I'm likely going to build a server like a big boy server to accommodate my automation systems. And I've got a bunch of old, not that old, but I have a ton of fucking graphics cards from when I was mining crypto. And so I'm going to see if I can Frankenstein myself some like home hosted AI LLM on some ridiculous fucking server rack that I'm going to build. So that's another fun project. But, you know. Yeah, so I have all my IoT stuff is on its own 2.4 gig IoT network. So it's all isolated because I don't want, some of the stuff's from fucking China and is like sketchy. And so the last thing I want is, bank account info going on a Wi-Fi network that like a bunch of cheap devices from AliExpress, may or may not have access to. So yeah, it's super confusing. I don't know why. I don't know why it's such a pain. But obviously I'm doing something wrong. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. We'll find out hopefully, and then we'll get after it. But yeah, so I'll stop rambling. I'll let everybody go enjoy their Friday. Yeah, thanks again to everybody who tuned in. Join the Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord, come join the Discord. We don't do live videos like this all the time on Discord. We probably will. I'm going to try to do more stuff there. It's a little more interactive, post, ask questions. We've got a ton of people in there who can answer questions. Usually I won't even be able to answer a question before someone else on the Discord can answer your question for you. And I don't know, I can't remember a single time where they were like wrong about one of their things, because the people who are in there are like super committed. They're super dope. They're really helpful. They're friendly. They're in there all day posting, what they're doing, posting umami stuff, posting different stuff they're growing, like sharing tech tips, the whole thing. It's a cool community. So join Discord. Yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not subscribed. And so we're going to try to do more YouTube live stuff, do more cool fucking streams and this and that, and, keep it fresh, keep it fun, because Instagram hates cannabis. So we're kind of moving away from Instagram as much as we can, because, they don't like us. And Discord doesn't love us. We got a Discord deleted already, but we're now a little bit more stringent on the rules and making sure that we're just sharing information. This is all for informational purposes only. YouTube, this is an educational series. Okay, I'm not telling people to do. I should do the disclaimer at the beginning of the video. I believe that's the proper place to do it. So we'll do it next time. I'll come up with some ridiculous one. I don't know if you guys watch. Oh man, what's that one guy with the green hair who does the hilarious disclaimer? Oh man, why can I not remember his name? Whatever. But that guy, he's super funny. His disclaimers are the best. I need to try to. Obviously, I'm not going to copy his disclaimer, but I got to come up with a funny disclaimer that's similar nonsense to that one. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks again. We will see you on the next one, which should be next week sometime. So let's see. How do I stop the live? I don't know. We're learning. Okay, 2 hours. Damn. Well, thanks for sticking with us. We'll catch you next week. So yeah, live in the lab. We're going to try to do it on Wednesday. Next Wednesday will be a little TC, chop it up, hang out, sesh. I'll see if I can get the microscope working, and we can do some cool shit on the microscope. So see you then.